It looks like we have a quorum, and so I'm going to call the joint meeting and for the Rules and Open Government Committee and Committee of the Whole to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Arenas? Cohen?
Here.
Davis?
Here.
Morales?
Here.
Jones?
Present.
And Arenas just signed on.
Okay. So we are going to start out with the agenda for Tuesday, October 4th. And like usual, we're going to start on pages 4 and 5. 6 and 7. 8 and 9. 10 and 11. 12 and 13. 14 and 15. And 16. So we're going to go now to public comments.
Claire?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Sorry for a bit of a meltdown I had yesterday. Hopefully I can make it up a bit today. I have an apology ready to go, written out. Sorry again. To offer, you will be talking about future of giving more power to San Jose community energy leaders about emergency practices, I think, is something around those terms. And I just, that's on one of the items, the agenda items next week. And I just wanted to ask the question, I'm trying to learn is, you know, I talked earlier in the year the importance of local procurement practices with the future of renewable energy ideas that could be really vital for, you know, just our future sustainability as community practices, and also how to more quickly, I think, leave an era of, if there is a natural disaster, it helps us rebuild faster by having local procurement processes in place. And, you know, from all of those structuring and figuring of good practices, hold on a second. From all of the good practices, I'm still not fully sure exactly with the renewable process, how much are we going to be relying on fossil fuels at this time and compared to the future? I know California has created, the Bay Area has created a really great way to limit how fossil fuels can be used in the future of renewable energy ideas, which is an awesome start. And I'm just wondering if you guys can make that more clear in your public meetings, what exactly renewable energy will be relying on in terms of fossil fuels and local procurement in the future. Thank you.
Sandra?
Yes, thank you very much. I'm not sure I'm talking at the right time, but I really need your help. And it has to do with power. Since September 2020, I've experienced over 40 power outages, the longest being 45 hours, the shortest being a few minutes, which really impacts his appliances. And on top of that, when the power goes out, the cell service also goes out. I really need some help from the city. And this isn't just me, it's entire communities of us that are
Excuse me.
experiencing this on a repetitive
I
basis.
think this is Sandra.
Sir.
I think this is an open forum.
An energy item, I thought it might go towards that, but
If I'm speaking at the wrong time, forgive me.
Are you speaking to a specific item on the agenda?
I just need some help.
okay, let's hold you till open forum,
Thank you.
and then just stay on the line. Back to the committee.
Thank you. And before I entertain a motion, I got to ask Angel my usual load balancing question for this agenda. Has this agenda been load balanced?
I know Lee's not here. I was going to ask a similar question, but sort of probably the opposite of what Vice Mayor usually asks. We're deferring a couple items off this agenda. It seems like a really, really short agenda, and I'm just getting concerned that we're not putting enough on these agendas. And
Well, that is the same
and
question.
I guess it's the same question, but
Yes.
it's well, you're often asking it for the other
right,
reason.
but-
I'm just this one concerned me. It was so short. I just wonder whether there's anything else we can move to it to help us in the coming months.
Yeah, this one is unusually short. I think when you look at the Horizon report, I think that'll kind of take care of that issue. That we got some meaty issues coming down the road here, but there's nothing time sensitive or nothing at the moment that we could add at this point, unless there was something that you wanted specifically add.
Thank you. I will entertain a motion, and there's a ad sheet as well.
Vice Mayor, I have a question first.
Yes, go ahead.
And Angel, this is kind of along those same lines. I've noticed that the Lot E item 8.1 is a recommended deferral, and this is an item that we had expected to have finalized a long ago. So I was wondering, I see the recommended deferral is to 10/18, which is our next meeting after October 4th, but what is the likelihood that we will finally be able to put this one to bed?
Yeah, I'm going to ask staff to address that timeline issue, because I know that that'd be Rosalind or Jackie.
For Lot E.
Good afternoon, Rosalind Huey, Deputy City Manager. Our apologies, we weren't following closely. So the item 8.1?
Is the actions related to land acquisition for the Lot E public parking facility. So this is for I believe for the tiny home, isn't it? Or is it for a parking structure?
It's for the parking structures,
Okay.
I understand it.
That is correct.
And I think Nancy Klein, OED, wanted a little bit more time.
Okay,
Just needed a little bit more time before getting it to council for final action.
okay, thank you.
And I believe we have it on closed session for next week.
Good to know. Thank you. I will move approval of the agenda as well as the ad sheet.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Tony?
Arenas,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. We don't have a meeting on the 11th, so we're on to the consent calendar, and we'll go to public comments.
Blair?
Hi, Blair here. As Vice Mayor Jones, as I'm understanding, is traveling to Washington, D.C. today on one of the consent calendar items to attend lectures with African American and the global Black community this week. I would like to apologize as much as I can to Vice Mayor Jones and the city government staff in the events of public comment of City Council Agenda Item 3.5 yesterday. Upon thought and reflection, my tone was a bit strong. I understand that from this why SJ City government may have then cut off this level of public comment. As City Budget Manager Jim Shannon in his staff presentation of Council Agenda Item 2.5 discussed how people can practice equity within intergovernment departments, and the City Council did not follow some correct procedures in approving the consent calendar as a whole without first asking for public comment yesterday, I felt we could all make this up by simply adding a few words of public comment from item 2.14 to item 3.5. 2.14 was an item about privacy and cybersecurity upgrades within city government practices. I could speak a few words about it as intergovernment practices and then move on to a long list of San Jose City planning for projects for 2023 that was a part of item 3.5. It is a public meeting practice I feel we've done together somewhat often in my 7+ years of San Jose public comment. Unfortunately, at item 3.14 public comment or 2.5 public comment, in my usual sad, remedial, and oafish ways, I asked if I could speak to item 2.4 instead of the proper title of 2.14. This, along with other possible factors, invited the Vice Mayor to say no to my request. I simply said I would proceed and for yourselves to be the judge of my words to follow. To be honest, it was my tone that may have been uncomfortable to city government staff who then cut me off. And for this, I understand and accept the consequences of their actions of this moment. So again, I apologize to Vice Mayor Jones and the city government.
The committee?
All right, can I entertain a motion to move the consent calendar, please?
So moved.
Second.
That's moved and seconded. Tony?
Arenas?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Peralez?
Yes.
Jones?
Aye.
Thank you.
Next item is actions related to RVs in the city of San Jose. And before we go to the committee, want to see if there are any public comments on this item.
Blair Beekman?
Hi, Blair Beekman. Good luck to safe parking ideas for this item. And in the future, if needed, the first woman who spoke today, maybe her item can be placed within community energy practices of that agenda. And thank you for allowing her extra time at open forum to speak on this item as well.
Gail?
Hi, so we're talking about this RV parking that the council members did a memorandum letter.
Yes,
Yes.
that's correct.
Yes.
Okay, well, I just came back from the RV site at the ballpark. I can't even comprehend why they are being abated right now, and they have only 2 weeks to move. Why is this happening now? Why is this letter for all the RVs coming to rules and it's going to city? I mean, I've spoken over and over and over again to think about what you're doing, and nobody is. These people have no place to go. I don't understand why nobody gets this. I really don't. I mean, you're saying people have the right to live in RVs, and this is not happening right now. They are buying some RVs. The ones they're buying, let's take them out of there, and there'll be less people. The people who live there don't want all the RVs there. They want to have just a few RVs, and this is insane. Where are they going? None of you can give me an answer. I've asked and asked, and then you go post. People are freaking out. People were crying this morning. Does anybody understand that? They're crying. They have no place to go. And I think the city council needs to step up, and you're not. You're not stepping up. You care more about kicking people out of their homes or out of the area and putting them on the streets. And that's what you're doing. I just don't understand why nobody understands that. I know Councilwoman Davis, what she wants, but these are human beings and they're going to be displaced and they're going to go back on the streets.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. I know that a early consideration response form was submitted for this item, so I'm going to ask staff to speak to it, please.
Okay, yeah, Vice Mayor, council members, there are two memos and two corresponding early consideration response form. The first memo from Vice Mayor Chapter Jones, council members Foley, Jimenez, and Mahan. What we basically capture in this early consideration response form is green lighting recommendation number 1, which is directing the administration to explore cost and strategy required to conduct a comprehensive count and inquiry of RVs throughout the city of San Jose to gain a deeper understanding. So basically green lighting recommendation number 1, and we are asking for more time, at least 3 to 4 weeks, to come back to address items 2 through 5 as part of that evaluation and exploration. That's our recommendation for that memo. There is also a second memo by Councilmember Cohen. We are recommending greenlighting both of those recommendations. The first one, there's already council direction that we've received back in May to explore this, and we're supposed to come back by late November. And so we could fold this additional language into that direction and that work. And so we are recommending greenlighting that. And then the second, we're actually piloting a program that reads almost identical to this, and as such, feel that we could greenlight that and include those pilot results when we get back to council. And so that's a staff recommendation. We also have staff here available for more detailed questions, but that's our recommendation for now.
Thank you, Angel. So I'll go ahead and speak to the memo that I prepared with Councilmember Foley, Jimenez, and Mahan, and that is that in my district and throughout the city, we've had these issues with RVs being parked, particularly in neighborhood streets, and it's not safe for the residents in the neighborhood. It's not safe for the inhabitants of the RVs, and it's not sustainable. That's why we wanted to explore better options. And I can give you a good example. On Friday of last week, I had an opportunity to be up in San Francisco doing a site visit for an RV parking facility near Hunters Point, and it was well managed. There were approximately 45 RVs that were there. Some were operable and some weren't. They had sanitation, they had security, and the residents seemed to be in a good place in terms of being able to have a place to sleep, have access to, again, services and sanitation. And it cleared out actually a street that was severely impacted by multiple RVs that were parked on that street. So that was a firsthand example of a solution that works for both the residents as well as the RV inhabitants. We need to do additional research. We need to understand, the needs of the folks that are living in these RVs. And also, as what Gail alluded to, we need to find a place for them to go that's going to work for them as well as work for the community and our neighbors. So that's why we put out this memo. And I know, Councilmember Cohen, you had an additional memo that you could speak to.
Yeah, and as staff knows, I've been talking about figuring out what we're going to do about the RVs in our city for a while. This is an important thing, and I'm not certainly it's not unique to District 4, but District 4 has I believe, a particularly acute problem in parts of the district. I'm sure other districts have areas that are like that too. I'm actually gonna, if I share my screen, does that get shared on the chamber video? Okay, I'm gonna share a video just because I think.
There's audio. Make sure you click the box.
No, there's the audio.
Okay,
There's no audio on this one. It's just a video. Is that showing up? Oh, there you go. Okay. So just as an example, so what happened, and this, we know that there's issues like Vice Mayor mentioned about vehicles parked in residential neighborhoods, which are unsafe for both parties. And what's happening, of course, is we often do react to the residential ones, and we have some of those in our district. But what's ending up happening is there's a large clustering of RVs in some of our business districts, and it was a concern for some of our businesses in North San Jose that we've been working with for the last month. And I took a video along a street in North San Jose called Cruise Drive. There's about 25 RVs parked in this 2-block stretch. So I'm just kind of sharing video of all of the RVs parked along this stretch here. The companies behind it, which are in this video right now, are concerned about it. They can't invite their clients and customers to their site. At the end of this street is a fuel depot. You can see a gas truck driving out. They're coming through about 1 truck every 5 minutes out of that gas depot. And vehicles that are pulling out of these parking lots are unable to see what's coming down the street with gas trucks driving down the street. And so there were some things that we put into this. One of the things that was important to me was that extra item number 1 on our memo, which talks about even if we're going to have places where RVs remain parked, we need to have some kind of rules put in place about what we can enforce as far as keeping communities and streets safe. So I wanted to have that element in there because I think, they asked us, for example, can we have sight lines preserved for people pulling out of the parking lot? Can we have certain rules that we can enforce in place to make sure that we're safe on places where we are still going to have RV parking? And then it is important for us to find places that are more suited than a street like this or residential neighborhoods. And it just shows the acute need. This is one street in our district that has about 25. There's another one across the way on Sealy with another 10. There's about 10 up in Alviso. There's clusterings that are happening of RVs. And I expect it's going to get worse after Columbus is cleared too. Vehicles are going to find some of these sites and cluster in some of these sites. So I just wanted to share that. And that's the reason for our number 1 recommendation. The number 2 recommendation on my memo, based on our experience with our Vista Montana parking site last year, we saw that the folks who ended up on that site couldn't relocate or couldn't take other housing until their vehicles were repaired. And many of the repairs weren't very expensive, but there wasn't really a mechanism in place to assist them. And so I'm glad to hear that with the pilot that we're doing, we might be able to operationalize that kind of a program to help people get their vehicles running. In a couple instances, we had a generous member of my staff who actually gave money to people to help them get their vehicles fixed. Wasn't a lot, but that's what they needed. And they did that and they were able to drive away. But without that, we would have had a problem there. And we need to be able to offer people that service when they need it, I think. So those are the 2 items that I added to this. I think the other items are important as well. We need to find places to provide the services that people need and to be able to park safely and be safe for both the residents in the RVs and for other residents and other people who work in San Jose. So I'm happy. I mean, I guess the question would be for staff, you're greenlighting the first item on that memo. You're saying you want to come back and talk about the other ones separately? Was that the preference?
Well, I think we could, given that we already have a pilot in place that's in progress, we could take the results of that pilot and fold it into our recommendations around this whole issue altogether. We do see that as being one of the key strategies, because that's even whether it's the folks over at Columbus or any of these other streets that you've identified, we're running into the same issue. Sometimes people just need a little bit of help to just so a little bit of help can go a long way. And so we've identified that, and we're going to operationalize that. So you could pretty much guarantee that it's going to be part of our strategy overall.
Okay. So I'm happy to move the first, both memos, I guess, and let's, you figure out the timing for how that can get implemented.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, and I don't see any hands raised. So, Tony?
Arenas,
Yes.
Owen,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Jones.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, next item is housing element. And we're going to go to public comments.
Brian Schmidt.
Good afternoon, Brian Schmidt for Green Foothills. I want to speak in support of the memo from Councilmember Jimenez and Cohen. This is a really important issue that should go to council. It should go there for two reasons, one general and one specific. On the general issue, this is one of the most important policy issues that are going to be coming to the city council over the next 8 years. This is guiding housing within the city of San Jose. It's something that needs to be discussed at the level of the city council. And if you look at other city councils and other elected bodies, county governments throughout the state, they are addressing this. It should be addressed within the city of San Jose. There's also a specific issue to San Jose regarding protection of open space in Coyote Valley and resolving conflicts in North San Jose. Almost every other housing element that's been submitted to the state has been sent back for the revisions. There is an opportunity to revise the city's housing element in such a way that it can work out some type of cooperative deal with the county, which is now looking at the prospect of putting housing in Coyote Valley, an area which the city has invested a significant amount of money to protect. So the county is looking for an opportunity to work together with the city. This could be done by resolving conflicts with the county over North San Jose and taking some of the housing obligations away from the county. Small by city standards, huge by county unincorporated standards. All this is complicated. It needs to be discussed at the council level, and we encourage you to approve this memo. Thank you.
Roma Dawson.
Thank you. I am Roma Dawson, and thanks to the Vice Mayor, I am a member of Housing and Community Development Commission. However, I want to be certain you realize that I'm speaking today as an individual and not on behalf of the Commission. I listened to the roadmap discussion. I'm also part of an organization that's following housing elements in the 9 counties under MTCA bag. I heard what the mayor said, and yes, we're lagging behind other cities. However, the city manager has the ability to accommodate a quick turnaround as soon as we get that compliance letter. I am in strong support of the memo authorized by Council Members Jimenez and Cohen. Again, I am very sensitive to the challenges that staff has faced, particularly in the housing department and in the planning department over the last year. I want to be sensitive to that. I do want to make the point that we simply cannot shortchange adequate public engagement. Folks will not accept a housing element and feel good about it if they don't have the opportunity to speak to City Council. And I ask you, plead with you to make sure you adopt this memo, direct the city manager again to comply with the direction in this memo. Thank you.
Emily. Emily, you're muted, or you're unmuted, but we're not hearing you, so your microphone may not be connected.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. Hi, my name is Emily Ann Ramos. I am speaking on behalf of Silicon Valley at Home. We believe, and we're in support of the memo by Councilmember Jimenez and Cohen. This is an important opportunity for continued engagement on the housing element. The housing element is supposed to address the needs of the community and come together with solutions to our housing crisis. It is an open and collaborative process, which we feel that council is a very important part of that. And public facilitation encourages more public engagement. And we anticipate the HCD letter arriving around mid-December, which gives time. We expect that this council meeting or study session would be in January, which is absolutely appropriate since we also have new. It's a timeline that actually works with everyone. So throughout the county, there have been issues with engaging the public. And we want San Jose, even though staff has done an amazing job in doing outreach thus far, this is just another thing that we think is an important opportunity for the community to engage, collaborate, and work together as we solve our housing crisis. So thank you so much for the time on this, and please pass the memo by Jimenez and Cohen. Thank you.
Aaron?
Hello, my name is Aaron Eckhouse. I'm the Regional Policy Manager with California YIMBY and work very closely with South Bay YIMBY, which is active in Santa Clara County, including San Jose. I'm here to speak in support of the Jimenez-Cohen memo. I've had the privilege to engage with San Jose staff in this housing element process as part of their great community outreach work. I think it's really valuable and important and appropriate that council also get a chance to weigh in on the housing element as it moves through the process, for the simple reason that the housing element is really important. San Jose has a really significant housing needs. It is not currently on pace to meet those needs. And so it's going to need to consider significant policy changes in order to address its housing needs through the housing process. Necessary for council to be involved in that process and to have a chance to weigh in and to identify what they would like staff to prioritize, and also to start getting familiar with the type of changes that are going to be necessary and that will have to be implemented over the coming years. So strongly supportive of this memo. This is such an important measure that it's really important to have active council engagement on. Thank you.
Blair Beekman?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the item. I lack depth compared to the other people who've spoken very nicely on this item. To learn a few things that you'll be questioning North San Jose projects. I'm slowly learning that it is difficult for yourselves to talk about sea level rise issues and wanting to continue to build housing in North San Jose. I'm sorry to say that so bluntly. I hope there can be soft ways to simply, I think there can be, that saying that, you know, we have to be considering these sort of options in the future of housing of North San Jose. And it's difficult for yourselves, I think, is what's going on. And hopefully by just simply saying it here at public comment time, it can open up a process to make it easier. Good luck in those efforts. And a good luck in my usual questions, working with the state towards the future of good subsidy programs for extremely low and very low income housing needs. I think to really, focus on subsidy issues with the state for, instead of 6 to 18 months, more 2 to 5 year programs, subsidy programs for the unhoused and for families. Boy, I think it could really solve a lot of issues. And good luck in that organization, how you can talk with the state at this time. And mixed income ideas are always important. Good luck how the Bay Area can talk more about mixed income. And I think that's about it for myself at this time. And thanks for this item.
Carol?
My name is Carol Watts, and I'm Vice President of the League of Women Voters of San Jose, Santa Clara. We support the memo authored by Council members Jimenez and Cohen. Our League's Housing and Homelessness Committee is closely following the housing element issue, and we submitted a comment letter on the draft plan in August. The League strongly believes that democratic government depends upon informed and active participation by the public. Therefore, immediately after the compliance letter is received from the California Department of Housing and Community Development, we urge the city manager to move quickly to place the housing element item on a city council meeting agenda with ample time for public comment. Thank you very much.
Keith?
Yes, hi. Name is Keith Diggs. I'm the housing elements manager for YIMBY Law. Just want to note, San Jose is the second biggest city in the state with the nation's worst housing crisis. And of course, housing is important. And recognizing that this is at the end of the day a meeting about whether to have another meeting, I just want to speak in support of the city council considering the full housing element. And thank you for letting me speak.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. Before we go to the committee, I know there was an early consideration form submitted for this item. Angel, do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, sure thing, Vice Mayor. Yeah, so we did submit an early consideration response form. We reviewed the memo, and we have given this a green light. It is important, though, we kind of caution that green light, though, because any additional delay could potentially push final adoption by the council back to August of 2023 and potentially jeopardize city and state and federal funding. And so we just want to kind of caution that. We definitely hear the need for community engagement and are in complete support of that. But we do want to caution that we are already behind on this work, and any additional delays can be detrimental.
Thank you. Councilmember Jimenez.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Just a few quick comments as one of the authors of the memo. You know, the context in which we submitted this memo is really that the current housing element timeline does not currently include an opportunity for the council to review and provide input before the final approval. And I think I heard Michael Brio yesterday. I think that was pushed out now to, I think, June 2023. And so I'll just say that. And Michael, if you're on the call or someone from planning, let me know if that's wrong. But that's what I thought I heard yesterday. So it got pushed out even more. Now, staff prepared, I think it's important to acknowledge that staff prepared the draft largely in accordance with the direction provided through the general plan and other type of policies like the residential anti-displacement strategy and ongoing housing related work, which makes sense. But currently the process, you know, after receiving those expected comments from HCD, which I think one of the commenters said it's expected this December, staff will determine whether the modifications revisions will be made. However, if the revisions required by HCD are significant, or if there are major deficiencies in the draft, it may be appropriate for first seek input from the council. And that's why I think that this meeting of sorts can prove important. And so the joint memo really directs staff to do a few things, and it's simply to schedule a discussion after receiving HCD comments to allow the council to provide input. And it's been, as it's been mentioned by several folks that have called in, I think it's important because it may be challenging for staff to anticipate or guess how council may want to revise the housing element comments, particularly, or the housing element, I should say, particularly if the revisions may deviate significantly from the general plan. Also, I think it's better that staff know sooner rather than later how the council may wish to respond to HCD comments rather than wait until after final approval for, you know, and then to discover that maybe council didn't support certain recommended changes. And also just separately, I think it's also an important place to get additional public input. Now, with regard to the comments of maybe putting some of the funding at stake, I obviously that resonates with me, and I think that's important not to damage that opportunity. But I think staff, specifically, I think it was Mr. Michael Brio related to our team, and I'm sharing this because I think it makes sense. And that is that if the comments back from HCD aren't significant in nature and maybe not as deep as we thought they would be, then I have no problem staff coming before this body and then saying that maybe the meeting isn't required. And so I just wanted to relay that That was my perspective, and so I hope you all consider supporting this. Thank you.
Yep. Vice Mayor, I've asked staff to kind of come down and provide some additional background that perhaps can address some of the concerns and the issues raised around community engagement and process and timeline, so we can get a better handle on kind of what next steps could potentially look like. So.
Great, thank you. Rosalind Huey, Deputy City Manager. First, I want to thank the council members for their memoranda. I do think it's important to first clarify just a few things. First and foremost, staff will be bringing the housing element to the City Council for their consideration and action. That is now being scheduled for June of next year. So I know that there were a few commenters who perhaps were thinking that this housing element would get submitted to the state without any council consideration or action, and that is not the case. We, of course, will be coming to council. Right now, the target date is June of next year for council's consideration, final action before the housing element is officially submitted to the state. So I just wanted to clarify that. In addition, there are other decision-making bodies who will also review the draft housing element, and of course that includes the Airport Land Use Commission, the Housing and Community Development Commission, the Planning Commission. So there are other bodies who will be involved in the process, and obviously through those bodies, those are public hearings, and the community obviously would have opportunity to comment as well. And then lastly, before I turn it over to staff to provide more details, I do want to ensure to the committee and to the members of the public that there has been a pretty extensive community engagement process. Staff started in September of 2021 with that community engagement. Just this past summer, there were a series actually of community meetings, special events. There were webinars, all types of activities involved. Number one, to help educate our community. Number one, about what the housing element is, to talk about the various components, and to then really hone in on specific issues as it relates to the city of San Jose and our strategies around our history of segregation and other issues regarding housing in the city. So just wanted to provide that context and that overview.
Thank you, Michael Brio, Deputy Director of Citywide Planning. I just want to elaborate at one point that Rosalind made, and that is that we've had almost 2,000 people that have participated in our workshops, and we've had 4,000 discrete responses on our online survey. So one thing I think it's important for the council, or the committee, excuse me, to understand is that that our housing element really, for the most part, is working within the framework of our existing general plan. So it's not proposing significant, new bold changes that we haven't already talked about with this council in our general plan. It's really more of a technical exercise to show that we have the sites in the inventory that are already within our general plan. We're also developing a program and policies to further implement the general plan and remove governmental constraints, et cetera. For the most part, those are things that are things that we're already doing or we've talked about with council. I do want to note that we've also had one-on-ones with the council and the mayor over the last fall, sharing kind of where we're going. So I think we anticipate, we've been in conversations with other cities that have received comments on their housing element already that have it certified. And what we're finding, we're also working with our planning collaborative and HC and ABAG staff as well. And what we're generally finding is that the comments that we can expect to receive for the most part are going to be comments asking for additional analysis, clarification, and more data. So what we were not expecting to see is that comments from HCD saying you need to do significantly bold new moves or steps that are things that you already aren't including in your housing element. So mind you, if we were to get some really significant feedback that we need to do some really bold changes and moves, by all means, we believe that we would need to bring that back to council and talk about that with council. But at this point, we're not expecting that. And I think what we're asking is that staff has a discretion to review the comments, and really and understand what they are. And if there is a need, we will bring it back. If there's not, let the administration sort of determine that. The one issue I do want to bring up, and sort of the downside of coming back to council and say it would probably be March or end of February, which by all means, again, if we need to do that, we understand. But if there's not a need, the unintended consequences of that, we anticipate it would delay us submitting the housing element for certification from June to August of next year, which would result in us being ineligible for significant housing and transportation grant funding opportunities for a couple more months. And so our approach right now is to we're not going to meet the deadline established by the state, but to minimize the amount of time we're out of compliance. So I think well, I'll leave it at that and open up to questions. I think Chappie may have. Anyway, I'll leave it at that.
All right, we're going to go to Councilmember Cohen.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for your comments. Let me ask a follow-up question about the reason that you're suggesting a potential delay. Is that because a council change in direction at that stage would potentially then have to be incorporated and cause a delay, or is it because of the time it takes to prepare for the meeting itself?
So it could be both. When the delay to August is assuming that the council makes no policy changes that are significant. I mean, the 2-month delay is about the amount of time and work that's involved to write a memo and bring it to council for discussion. So the staff that would be working on responding to the comments from HCD would be pulled off of that and would refocus their efforts to be writing a memo to council and preparing for that hearing. So that we have a very small staff, both in housing and planning. And so do we want them working on responding on comments, or do we want them working on completing the housing or coming to council with the discussion? Again, if there is some really big items that are worthy of council discussion, by all means, we should come back to council. But I think where we're at is let's see what the comments look like that they come in and make a decision at that point, whether there is a need to bring it back, or are they more comments about clarification, additional analysis are needed and not substantive.
And council member, if I can just qualify just what Michael's saying there, part of the reason it takes us, it's going to impact us 2 months to put together a study session is because our current timeline is sitting right up against the July recess. And so that puts another month on our ability to move forward through public hearings and bring the final adoption before council.
Yeah, I understood that part, that August was just because end of June becomes August. I guess I'm going to push back a little bit, only in the sense that obviously there has to be a preparation for the council meeting in June, which has to be, have a thorough presentation and memo. And I'm not suggesting that the same level has to be ready for a study session. My concern is that certainly it doesn't help if we bring it to, if it comes to council and there's a lot of comment and questions and potential input from council in June. That can't happen. That would clearly delay the process. Whereas the earlier, the better. But I actually disagree with Councilmember Jimenez a little bit about this idea that it shouldn't even come back to council if there's no significant changes, because this really is one of the most significant things that we're going to be doing. And I think it's important for the council to fully understand it. And I know, there's probably a different level of understanding based on longevity on council. So some people may not feel like they need this as much as others. We'll have 3 for sure new council members, if not more, by the time spring comes, without any benefit of having seen the one-on-one presentations that we've had. And I will point out, to sort of, from my own experience, just say, we had the one-on-one presentation in our office and left that meeting feeling like we still don't understand the housing element at all, honestly. So I think it's important for us when we talk to our community about what this means, what the plans are for the city, to really be able to understand it. And when I was at the League of Cities meeting earlier this month, it was interesting. The main topic around, just amongst council members from various cities, was what's in your housing element? What's in your housing element? What are you doing for the housing element? It was really being talked about. And I felt like I couldn't even explain it. Now it's much different. I joke about, I could easily tell you in 10 seconds the Montessorino housing element, because I heard it from the Montessorino council member, and it's very different than San Jose. But that's what makes this more complicated. And what I feel has a need for some of this is that it is more complicated and there is a lot to it. And for us to understand it, and for some of us where there's areas like North San Jose, it's really important that we have that opportunity to vet it. And I'm just hoping there's a way for us to have that discussion with the council, with the new council, and in a way that we can learn from each other in that discussion without necessarily creating a huge amount of work. I mean, when we have the one-on-one presentations, there is a presentation being given to us. When we have if we were to say to you, I need another briefing, you would provide it. So there should be a way for us to do this that's not going to create so much work. I guess that's kind of my feeling, and I guess I can ask you for your feedback on that.
Councilmember.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much, Councilmember Cohen. And actually, I wanted to offer perhaps a suggestion or an idea because really today we don't know what comments we are going to receive from the state on our first draft. I would suggest perhaps that when we do get those comments back from the state in the time frame we were expecting December, is that staff then issue an info memo, right? So that we can communicate to the full council, to the public at large, what those comments are. And then at that time, if it turns out they're very substantial and we think warrants, yes, we need to have a conversation with our council and with the public about these substantial comments, then we schedule that council meeting at that time. Just wanted to offer that as an idea because currently, like right now, we're not sure the amount of comments we're going to get. And I know the staff has been working very hard. We know that what we're submitting is quite comprehensive. I know other cities have gotten lots of comments back from HCD, but we're expecting hopefully to not have that level of comment because we've been very, very thorough to this point. So just wanted to offer that as an idea.
Yeah, and I meant to preface all what I said by saying none of this is meant as a disparagement of all the work and all of the and you know what the staff has been doing on this. It's more of partly a disparagement of myself. I don't understand it fully and want a chance to understand it better. So I get it that we don't want to create more work. Obviously, in some sense, if there's a lot of significant comments from HCD, then there's even more work, which would then be delayed more by having this hearing. But even with few comments from HCD, this should be an opportunity for us to have one round at it before we have to finally approve it in June. I find that sometimes it's better to have that pre-discussion before the final decision is made in June. That's kind of my feeling about it. But I'll leave it at that and let others maybe weigh in.
First of all, I want to say, Councilmember Cohen, don't be so hard on yourself. Actually, when I first got on council, Jackie, you probably don't remember this, but when I first got on council, we had like the first month we had to approve the housing element. And I was trying to delay it because this is a major deal and, I needed more information. And you and staff made it very clear that we had to make a decision because of the consequences of delaying it. Can you give us some, context in terms of the potential grant funding that we might miss out on or lose if we have this delayed at all?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jackie Morales-Friend. I'm the Director of Housing. And yes, so the biggest challenge that we're facing is because we're not able to submit it on time, we will not have a certified housing element, which will mean that we will be unable to apply for certain HCD funding. And that includes some of the ASIC funding, which is the affordable housing that is tied to transportation. San Jose has been very successful. Those grants have ranged anywhere from $1.5 million to over $12 million in funding for affordable housing. That's one of our concerns. There are also specific transportation grants, and we're trying to document what the amounts are for those particular grants that they will not be able to apply for because we don't have a certified element. So that frankly has been our biggest concern is the delays and the timing of those grants. We have been watching very carefully and trying to work with HCD to understand when those grants will come out. And it weighs very heavily, especially on the affordable housing side, because we need, as you know, every dollar to help us to move our affordable projects forward. And the infrastructure grants that are coming with those have been, have helped to not only build the affordable housing, but to make the surrounding area more transportation friendly and walkable. They're the kind of investments that make our community better.
The potential delay from June to August, is that assuming that it's not a major revision? Or is it, can you give me some context in terms of, is there the potential for this thing to even be pushed out farther than August based on?
Well, I mean, it could. So there's a couple things that happen. One is we could get a lot of comments that need a lot more work. Again, it probably won't be new policies and new programs. It's probably going to be more like, you picked all these sites in your inventory. We need more justification on those sites, or show us more analysis on this. So that's possible. That could add to the time. And then, of course, if council, if council wants us to explore different things that are not currently proposed, that could also add time. But right now we're assuming a healthy dose of comments and kind of built in being able to just respond to those and keep the schedule that we have, which is by the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. And then my last question is, when you address part of it with an info memo and giving council the opportunity of receiving that info memo and then making a determination whether it's something that we want to, engage in more community input. Is there an opportunity for the community to still provide feedback or comments, or is it pretty much closed off?
No, I mean, the official state required public comment period for the first draft is closed as per the state rules, but we are continually open to and have been getting comments and feedback. So it's an open door.
Okay, so we have an opportunity here to satisfy a lot of the elements. One is community input. Two is an opportunity for council to see what the feedback is from HCD.
Yes, and additionally, so I think, the other thing we've heard from HCD, which is unique, other cities are claiming that they didn't get this. So maybe because we're the third largest city in the state, we get a little bit of privilege here, but they're going to give us some initial comments in 45 days. And some cities have gotten comments. There's a need for more outreach. We think we've done a lot of outreach, but that could be a comment. So those are the kind of things that we'll hear. And based on that, we may proactively do more outreach, but we don't know what that comment will be. But yeah, there's definitely ongoing opportunities for comments to come in. There's going to likely be 3 drafts of this we're anticipating. So,
and I just wanted to reiterate that the full housing element, because I think that was one of the messages that I heard as I was listening to public comment, was that that some people didn't feel like they heard comprehensively all of the housing element woven together. And so because we have all these other bodies that we have to bring the entire housing element to, there will be additional opportunity for the community to hear the entire housing element and how all the pieces fit in those meetings. And I believe all of those will occur before it comes to council. So that will be valuable feedback to the staff, because of course we'll be tracking and listening through those other public meetings as well.
Thank you. So I'm very supportive of the suggestion of doing the info memo, as well as all the community outreach that we just talked about and community input. I would like to entertain a motion to capture that if one of my colleagues is willing to make it.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
So I don't understand exactly what you're moving. You're moving the
recommendation that staff will come back with an info memo after they've received comments from HCD and that they would engage in a community outreach process, community input process that was just described by staff.
I'll second that.
Yeah, it's fine. He seconded it. I want to just ask a follow-up question then on that. So what's the timing by which you're bringing these to the other committees and that are going to hear it, and the commissions that are going to hear it?
Sure. So Councilmember Cohen, currently our schedule is that the Airport Land Use Commission would hear the item either at its March or April meeting. The Housing and Community Development Commission will hear the item at its May meeting, and the Planning Commission would hear it at their May meeting next year. And as Jackie pointed out, obviously there's opportunity for members of the public to participate in those hearings, to provide comment, to email staff with questions as well.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how that can tie into something with council as well. I mean, in other words, I'm trying to figure out, the last thing I want to do is cause any delay because of a recommendation that we make. That's never been, that's not my intention at all. There's obviously things that have to be done to prepare for these other milestones along the way that I'm thinking can prepare for something that council can do as well, but without having to create some extra work. I like the idea of some flexibility, still asking for us to prepare and maybe set aside a study date, but have flexibility for what recommendation staff has after getting the input, as far as whether it's something that would be needed or necessary, and whether whether or not they feel that it'll be a delay. I mean, for example, not just the question of are there significant enough changes, but if we did this, would it delay? And we won't know that until we're at the point where you get the comments and you see how much work needs to be done. I still think there's a large benefit to us having this open discussion somehow with the whole council before it comes in June. I'd like to include setting aside a potential hearing for that, but allow the flexibility to say, if this is going to disrupt our process, or it's going to, or we don't think that this isn't necessary, and we got enough we can give you enough in an info memo, then we're able to cancel it at that point and have that conversation with the Rules Committee about canceling it. But I like the idea of having that lined up so that we think about that as an option for those of us who feel that it's important that we have this discussion. And it's both for the public, but also for the council as a whole, so that we're not having that discussion only one time in June when it's coming, and at that point has to be approved. That's what I'm concerned about.
Well, Councilmember, perhaps, it seems like the key determinant here is really the feedback that we get in December, right? And the content within that. It could be minimal, it could be more loaded. Perhaps we defer that decision to that time. I think what we could do as staff is, based on that feedback and comment, make an assessment right then and there. Number one, issue the info memo to sunshine the issues, but also have in mind, or at least on our radar, that if they're substantive and really in need of a more in-depth conversation, that at that time working within the city manager's office to agendize a meeting at that time if it's so needed. We definitely are open to doing that. We definitely are committed to really reconciling what we're hearing during public comment around the need for the appropriate community engagement, and then kind of reconciling that with process and time and staff constraints. But if you're open to that, we could definitely plan with that in mind.
So I'll ask for friendly amendment to say, let's keep open the idea of having a council discussion and come back to rules once we have feedback to make that final determination. How's that as a?
I will accept that as an amendment.
Is that all right with the, okay with the seconder?
Yes.
All right. I don't see any other hands raised or any names on the board, so we have a motion and a second. Tony?
Arenas?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Perales?
Yes.
Jones?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us to open forum.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks for the meeting today. I hope this can be a time to consider healing as a more holistic, open, shared community process this fall. So I don't want to use hostility in trying to learn to talk about better ideas of clarity and to try to better address the current status quo with San Jose data and technology collection practices. I hope yourselves will consider this and will also want to consider what can be trusting, patient, healing, good terms in the next few months, and a safe space to talk about these sort of things openly, honestly, and decently at public comment time. Interestingly, at this point, I can simply blend my public comment from item 2.14 yesterday of intergovernment practices into item 3.5 of San Jose Public Project Ideas for 2023. I am hoping ideas of good civil protections, openness, clearness, and honesty with data collection for the everyday community simply be first and foremost for San Jose city government this fall in San Jose. A year ago at this time, the everyday community of Berkeley was up in arms in how law enforcement data from its ALPRs, streetlight surveillance tech, electronic billboards, etc., was being given to LexisNexis and other data collection services, and then bundled and sold to other law enforcement and commercial agencies. Berkeley has recently completed work in the past year to tighten up the civil protections of everyday persons and the immigrant population of the sanctuary city of Berkeley, and how data collection is now shared. San Jose needs to learn to take these lessons to heart at this time and do something of the same thing in a plethora of new ALPR use that is taking place in San Jose at this time. Hopefully, in a shorter amount of time, 6 months to a year, San Jose should be able to develop its own interesting, useful ideas of civil rights and civil protection ideas with data collection for everyday community and the immigrant community of San Jose. I guess thanks for your time. I hope we can really work on this stuff this fall, and I'd like to continue talking about it. Thank you.
Sandra.
Thank you for your time. I'm requesting that the city and San Jose Clean Energy use its leverage and influence to improve the power sources from PG&E and submit complaints to the PUC on behalf of our citizens and residents of San Jose. As a resident who's experienced over 40 plus power outages since September 2020, the longest being 45 hours, the shortest being a few minutes, the grid is not reliable and will become even less reliable as we move to electrification. The services and the loss of power outages also impact cell services, which drop significantly and which will limit people's ability to get assistance in terms of emergencies. I would also ask the city to consider requiring the cell towers in high power outage areas to have backups, either a generator or battery, so that cell service is not dropped. Thank you for your consideration. This has become very difficult and very frustrating, and I'm sure you all will help in some manner to secure better infrastructure for all of us in the city, and especially those who are in districts that continue to have significant number of power outages with long durations. Thank you for your time.
Calling user 1.
Hi, Martha O'Connell, GSMOL, representing mobile home park residents. Thank you very much for those of you who participated in the CED meeting yesterday. And the issue of the mobile home park land use designation is going to council on the 18th of October. I would ask that you do it in the late afternoon or early evening. History has shown us that a lot of the folks who call in are seniors and they are unable to sit up late. So please give us a time certain or a not before late afternoon or early evening. The second comment I need to make is to Tony. Tony, I got a number of contacts after that meeting from senior folks who don't understand how to update their Zoom. I believe those are the words you use, I'm not sure, but they get very confused and they don't know how to do it. So I'm going to be telling everyone, forget the Zoom. You can watch it on TV, mute your TV, but be on the phone. So I respectfully request that the staff might consider telling some of these folks, you can always mute your TV and just call in on the phone. I think it would result in more people being able to speak, because there were people that were confused yesterday about how to do it. So thank you very much.
Back to the committee.
Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.